Hey guys, it's Tom, and welcome to another issue of Late Night Excel, which is kind of ironic because you're probably watching this during the day anyway. But just to let you know, it is past my bedtime. So I got a request today from somebody I used to work with, and they had this data file and they wanted to make some changes. So what we can see right now is we see this actual data file right now. And let me make this a little bigger for you. And the way this file is structured is we have a bunch of last names, first names. Basically, these are like records of a parent. So James Walker, date they were added to the system, gender, number of children, which is 2. And then it lists the children over here. Child's phone number and child's name. Now, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. I obviously went through and generated a random data set, so I wasn't using actual data. But it's sorted down here, and you see each row has one child on it, and then the parent's information is repeated. So that's the initial state of the file. And what my friend wanted done, let's go over to the finished version. My friend wanted was one row for each parent, and then have the children be appended to that row, as many as there are. So here's Olivia Walker was 1, and then Ethan Walker is the second, and then there's no more. You go down to the next one, and there's 3 children here. So there's a number of different ways to solve for this, and for mine, I use dynamic array formulas. It just seemed like the easiest and cleanest solution of all of them with the scope of this project. So let's go back to the original, and I'll just talk about a little pre-work that we had to do. So the first thing that I had to do is I made this a table. I made an Excel table, and that way we can reference it by the table name. And if you recall that, if I go to table design, now I have table 1 that I can use in my formulas, and it'll be a little easier to write those formulas. The next thing I had to do was to add this new index column. Now, the raw data came with the number of children for each parent, but it was just the same number repeated 3 times. I needed to actually segment and make each child be a number, like child 1 or child 2, child 1, 2, or 3. So we created this new index column. It was really a basic formula. All we did here is looked at the last name field of our table, and if that equaled the row above it, then that meant we're still on the same last name, still on the same parent. So just add 1 to the value above us. If not, make it 1. That means we're starting a brand new parent, and we'll start the count over. Anyway, that seemed to work pretty good. So now that we've got our pre-work done, I was able to go over to the Finish tab and just start building out with dynamic array formulas. So the first one I did is I wanted to just get a list of unique or distinct parents in my list. So, obviously there, I just used the unique function, passed in table name, and instead of taking the whole table, because we want to put those child records horizontally on the end afterwards, all I'm going to look at is fields from the last name to the number of children. So if I go over here, all I want is my unique records are last name to number of children. So when I did my unique, then it spilled down and to the right to fill in all of my parents' information, and then I can start working on bringing my child's information in. So I'll come over here to the F column, and we'll look at the formula we built there. Now there's a lot to unpack here, but we're just going to start with the first thing that you see is if error. Now that function takes any function you have and it gives you any error message. It puts something else there so that the error looks nice and it's not just a pound calc or something like that. So you see when this function actually doesn't return a child, it was throwing an error, but instead of doing that I haven't made just 3 dots. So you know it got looked at, but nothing got added there. So the next thing we're going to do is we want to use the filter function, and we're going to filter the table of data that we had in the original. The first thing the filter function asks for is the array, or what you're trying to get back from your original data. So we want to get back the child name and the child phone number columns. When I meet our conditions, it's going to return the child's phone number, and the child's name. That part's done. The next part is the condition of what is the condition the filter needs to meet to bring those values back. Well, what we need to do is we need to match up the last name, the first name, and then, if you see here, I put that new index across the top as columns, column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. We want to match up all of those. So the way we do that is we just start with one of them, table 1, brackets last name equals A3. So that's just saying we want the last name to equal whatever's in column A. Notice you have to lock down the column with absolute references so it doesn't move when we copy it. Then, in order to have multiple criteria in a filter statement, you use this ampersand to just append it to the next filter you want. So just in case there's multiple Walkers or multiple Simmons or Reeds, we're going to check the first and the last name. So we already checked the last name. Now let's have it check the table's first name and make sure that equals B3. Okay? And now the one last thing we have to do is use that new index column to pick out which child we're bringing over. So that's easy too. We come up here and we look for table new index, but this time it's going to look above to that column header. And this time we're going to lock down that we want the absolute reference to be on row 1. And that's really it. When we put those ampersands between each of those, this function will return the child's phone number and name for each parent. Then I can take that formula, and all I have to do is copy that formula down, and then took that formula and copied it to the other columns too, 2, 3, and 4. So that's it. That's how we've transposed that data from having a row for every child to each child and their phone number being in their own column to the right of the parent. All right, thanks. If you like this video, give it a click and a like and leave some comments. Talk to you later. Bye.